Eat more chips, don't let the salad win. That's the message in terms of nature of the food maybe that we consume in Wales.
Oh, in Wrexham Town they say there's a team that likes to play association football with precision. On the terraces they call, come on Nixie, hit that ball, and we're off to the second division. Come and see the Reds with me, and you will swear that you have seen a vision. Top of Division 3, led by Arno Litti, we're off to the second division.
Hello and welcome to the Eat More Chips podcast, the official podcast for one of the greatest Welsh supporters flags in the whole universe. In a week when a medical clinic in Scotland is asking local residents to stop bringing in inappropriate and unsolicited urine samples, the Saltoun surgery in Fraserburgh, Aberdeenshire said on social media that doctors and medical staff at the clinic have been inundated with a high volume of unsolicited urine samples, often in non-medical household containers instead of sterile sample containers. Please be advised that we are no longer able to accept urine samples unless they have been specifically requested by the practice, the post said. One doctor speaking anonymously to the Times of London said multiple clinics have had to put up signs asking patients not to bring unsolicited urine samples. The doctor said the culprits are often older patients seeking to be tested for urinary tract infections without first consulting with medical experts. If you ask me, if anybody is taking the piss without due care and attention, it's these two. It's Jamie and Daz.
I'm so glad you explained why they were taking their piss to the doctors, because up until that point, I was thinking, why are people just randomly bringing their piss to people?
So
Hello, mate.
I can't take my piss in like an unsanctioned bottle, but there's nothing stopping me pissing through the letterbox.
No, definitely not. The thing is, when you're old, there's not a lot to do. Do you know what I mean? So obviously
Take
taking
your
your
word
piss
for
in a
that.
Tupperware... Taking your piss, fuck off. Taking your piss in a Tupperware box down to the doctors is obviously the only thing, you know, because since they've shut all the centres, there's nothing else to do, obviously, during the day. So, yeah, there you go. Anyway,
Other vessels are available other than Tupperware, by the way.
absolutely, yeah. But not one of those icing bags because it tends to leak through. First things up, the pair of you. It's been exactly a year since Craig Bellamy's appointment as Cymru manager. What's kind of your general consensus with how you think Cymru have performed under him? Either of you, Daz or Jamie, really?
Well, I mean, I think we've all, we've all been impressed by his speed of adjustment to the role. I think he came in with morale of sort of, I would say at a low ebb. And the fact that he's managed to turn that around so quickly, some of that was to do with the quality sound bites and the interviews and the ethos that you just got a sense that this guy is here for the greater good. It wasn't about a career step for him, about getting into management, and it just everything he was saying was the right thing. And then that feels like that echoed a similar conversation that must be happening on the pitch, because all the players were saying that they were enjoying his time, the time with him, and the fact that they felt supported by him, and so just talking the talk in the first place was just all positive. But then when we saw them on the pitch, it seemed to translate completely onto the pitch.
It's a very different feel, isn't it? I mean, I can't believe it's been a
Totally.
year. I can't believe it's
No.
been only a year, to be honest. It seems like longer, but it's a totally different feel, isn't it, to the play and compared to Rob Page's time.
Yeah, and Rob and Paige, it wasn't bad. I mean, he made us, we qualified major tournaments. We were getting, getting certain results. It's just that there's something more pleasurable about watching the beautiful game when it's done with a slightly more like an attacking vigor about it. That Bellamy didn't know how to play any other way. So the fact that he doesn't know really how to coach any other way is there's some predictability about that, but it's also quite refreshing. So yeah, I really think it was a very astute appointment, really cleverly sort of bought into the whole. He knew what it was like, and we're talking about carrying on the mantra from Speedo, let alone anybody else. The fact that he was mates with him, and the fact I listened to a podcast recently with Hal Robson-Cano was talking about what made that time in 2016 so special, and the fact that he was saying they took the speed influences, the professionalism, but that just spirit and Coleman, of course, mates brought it on, but Bellamy was part of that. The senior players of that era were part of that, and I feel that Bellamy's kind of role modelled. He's worked alongside some great managers. He certainly played under a good number, but the fact that what it means to be Welsh and be the Welsh manager, you couldn't have a better ambassador for the Speedo revolution that was. So I knew it would be good. I didn't expect it to be this good.
I mean, supporting Vincent Kompany, was
Do you know?
because he's an amazing manager, yeah, mate.
Yeah.
Do you know what I think makes the change even more impressive is the fact that it's international level, because he gets limited time with the players. We've seen it in years gone by where new managers go to a league football club and they have more time with the players to be able to instill and impact change. But obviously, he gets very limited time with these players and split out and very sporadic as well. So that, to me, that makes it even more impressive what he's achieved in the last year. But yeah, like you say, massive shift, massive change.
Well, we've obviously had some news from the club this week as they have gone down under, and we'll talk about that a bit later. I'm not in the way that Daz usually goes down under, because that's something completely different. But we've had some news off the field, and the first bit of news really was the release of some training wear. First of all, it was interesting from this one, the jokes that came over. I mean, obviously this is based on the Welsh blanket style. Each of the kind of the regions in certain areas, particularly West and North Wales, have their own kind of type of designs. Portcullis design, these kind of things. I remember Nine used to have one. Ellis used to have one. I remember that. Not like this, but very different. Also, it kind of fits in as well with the Welsh tartan, because obviously there are some Welsh tartans as well. It's not just a Scottish and Irish thing. Jamie, obviously it's lots of piss taking. Somebody said, I knew we were sponsored by Croswell in the 80s. I think it's terrible that they've nicked the bus seat covers off them to put them on a shirt, which I thought was quite funny.
Well, when I saw this, I just thought you were sending me a picture of your front room, I'll be honest. It's, yeah. I mean, I've got three things to say about this. One, I think whoever decided to put the same material or the same pattern as the backdrop for what's on the shirts needs to have a serious look at their design skills, because that doesn't help at all.
No, not at all.
Two is, it is. I mean, it reminds me of the carpet at like Weatherspoons in the 90s. But three, on a positive note, it's nice to see that we've got a training sponsor now called Irony. It's nice.
What do you mean by irony, Jamie? What do you mean by that?
Hey, so. To my knowledge, and I'm not an expert on this, but Ancestry, I believe, are a company whom can help you piece together your family heritage and your family tree, and go back through the years and see who you're related to, etc., etc. In other words, like legacy and family history. It's quite ironic that last week we were talking about the season ticket debacle, that you can't pass your season ticket down to a family member. But hey ho, these are things. I'm not a big fan of the funky one. I think the raspberry, the ripple ones last year we had, again, they were very divisive, but I quite like those. Some people will like this, some people won't. Maybe in the flesh it'll look better. I do think the red ones, the short sleeve one that we're seeing on screen with which Barney's wearing, and then there was a picture of Danny Ward in the longer sleeved training top as well. They look quite nice, I think. Quite, a little bit less in your face, but I'm sure they'll still sell bucket loads of them. But jury's out for me on those.
Well, £65 if you're in the UK for one of those. Currently at the club shop, and we'll talk about the club shop in a second.
It's so for cheaper, and I'll cut it out.
However, when you buy them, apparently they don't have the Ancestry logo on them, so they're just plain, which I think I think it'll make it worse, to be honest, because it will look like you're wearing a duvet. Daz, with the Welsh heritage side, obviously not with the, because you're not a fully blown rabid Wrexham fan like Jamie and I are. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you talked about grandparents having. I mean, I have a stool in downstairs that has that pattern, and it is very, and it used to be my grandmother's, so it does ring a lot of heritage and tradition, and anybody who's, like I say, Western North Walian and from that, the Woolen Mills communities, this resonates. This resonates hugely. So I, as much as I think, like from a graphic design, I was thinking, but there's just something really, really, I don't know, tangible with it in terms of being from the area. But I agree with Jamie. Don't put it on the background whilst you're wearing the shirt. So,
Guess
it's
what you're
it's
getting for your birthday, Daz? Guess what I'm getting
I've,
for your
I've
birthday?
only just noticed on that picture. I've not really seen that picture properly before, but Ollie Rathbone looks thrilled to be in that top, doesn't he?
He looks like when
Sorry,
you're 8 years old and you're
yeah.
stuck in like that party shirt that you don't want to be put in.
well, he thinks
Sorry,
he thinks he's there alone, and then he suddenly
yeah,
realizes somebody else stood there next to him, but he didn't see him.
yeah.
Because the
Sorry,
chameleon-esque
s-
into the background and
Just
disappeared.
blurring over.
yeah. Sorry to audio listeners, but obviously we're looking at the picture that was released this week. But I get the feeling there's a wider shot there, and there's somebody stood next to him with a gun, saying, "You will pose in this shirt." Yeah, he doesn't look very happy about it.
Or if
Yeah.
it's moving, suddenly a pair of eyes open in the middle and it's George Dobson. It's completely camouflaged in the centre.
Jesus.
Anyway, so you can pick those up from the club shop. And then yesterday, well, obviously we're recording this on a Thursday, yesterday the home shirt broke. And the home shirt is based on the 1981 to 1984 shirt. For those of you not seen it, it is standard one, winged collar, V, piping, very thin piping down the left-hand side of the trunk, normal bands on the sleeves, centre badge, which is great. Obviously, on the shots that we've seen, there's a HP on the sleeve as well. You'll see here, for those of you listening, apologies for this, I'll describe it. There is a picture from the European Cup Winners' Cup game we played in 1985, where you'll see a very, very young Barry Horn there on the front with his curly mullet going on. But you can see that's the shirt, was the Patrick shirt, and actually, you probably can't see but I actually have one of the original ones, and there it is,
Of
an
course you
original
have.
Patrick one. Of course I have. Original Patrick one with the badge in the centre, with the weaved badge by there, and this one actually is signed by the legend that is Arvin Griffiths. So yeah, I'll just put that one back over there because that's going to get framed eventually. So that's what it's based on. There are some little details that are weaved into the shirt themselves. So obviously, as I said, it's actually an embroidered badge, not the plastic or rubberized badge that has been last year. Inside the collar of the shirt, it says Wrexham is the name, and a band across the bottom says history only tells a story, with the miners wheel and the 266 in grey. However, some people have pointed out that history only tells a story isn't correct, because if you look at the sleeve, the original sleeve of Wrexham is the name, the lyrics are on the back, and the lyrics clearly say, and I will use my little pointer here, history only tells the story, not a story. So I'm not sure whether somebody either didn't do their due diligence, or the club have decided to change what's happening with
Well,
regards to that.
they were getting charged by the letter, so saved a couple. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But obviously, when you see the pictures here, some great pictures though coming out. I mean, it's the one thing the media team does incredibly well. Here we can see Elliot Lee with a classic shot. There's a brilliant one there of Max Cleworth, who is repeating the iconic Joey Jones photograph from 1982, I think, which is absolutely brilliant. And then the one in the centre, which really got me, which was released today. 6 of the top players in Wrexham history. Gaz Owen, 1988 to 2001. Gary Psycho Bennett, 1992 to 97. Graham Whittle, 1970 to 1985. Alan Hill, 1970 to 1983. Andy Morrell, 1997 to 2014. And, of course, Mickey Thomas, 1970 to 1998. Between these 6 players, 1,281 appearances for the club. What a fantastic photograph.
I thought we got to take that together to model the shirt.
Take that and party me back. So, Jamie, let's go back. Let's go back first and have a look at the shirt itself.
Yeah.
Thoughts? What are your thoughts? I know you put out some stuff on social media. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So for me, it's a 9.5 out of 10. It's probably my favourite shirt since the takeover. I really like it. I like the centralised badge, which is unusual for me because I'm not a huge fan of the badges being in the centre, but I really like this. I like the fact they've kept it simple and it's retro, isn't it? Which is very much kind of in fashion at the minute. The reason why it's a 9.5 out of 10 for me is because of that Macron badge on the front. What frustrated me is the fact that there are 2 Macron badges on the shoulders. If you see it from you can't see it from this angle, but there are 2 Macron badges on the top of the shoulders.
There you go, there's one there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so it didn't really need to be there, but if it did have to be on the front, like that European game picture you had up a minute ago, if you look at the classic shirt there, who made that kit? Is it Patrick? Yeah. So the Patrick logo is in the middle, which I think looks better. So if it absolutely had to be on the front, I think if it had been in the middle, it would have been better. Personally, not on there at all. But that is a minor gripe. I really like it. Like you've gone through, the little details are lovely. The embroidered badge is beautiful. I just hope that is how it is on the finished ones, and that's not just some sort of mock-up for the pictures. Obviously, as we're recording this on Thursday, the new club shop has opened and they've gone live online.
We've seen pictures, haven't we, of the inside of the shop? I'm not going to show them because they don't belong to me. But it looks really swish from the.
It does, yeah. I mean, I have ordered this shirt online, which was a painful experience. I'm not going to lie, and it's the price stings a little bit, but as a few people have pointed out, we don't have to buy any of this stuff. We can all have an opinion, but nobody's forcing us to buy any of it.
I mean, for those in the UK, 65 for the adult shirt, 55 for a child shirt, 45 for the baby kit, which is the full shirt, shorts, and socks. If you then want your shirt printed, so that's printed with a number, a name, and the league badge, Championship League badge, that's an extra £24. So for an adult shirt fully printed, that's £89. If you're in America, price is starting at Dick's Sporting Goods for the non-printed shirt at $110, which apparently is more expensive than before last year when they had to order it from the club shop, and then with all the shipping and the duties and everything else, apparently it's now more expensive to buy it from America, which for me doesn't seem to make any sense, but maybe that's just me.
Well, I went with the junior one just to save myself £10. So you promise you won't point and laugh when it looks like I've got a crop top on, yeah?
Can you imagine?
There are some images we just don't need.
I know. Just this big muffin top coming over the top.
I look like, what's his name of Little Britain? David.
I mean, we're still waiting, obviously. Oh my God, that image has just popped into my head. Thanks for that. We're obviously still waiting for the other 2 shirts. Apparently, rumours are that the away kit is going to be yellow and green. So that will go back towards times in the 90s, early 2000s, from what I remember. I'd have to look that up from that point of view. And then the 3rd shirt, apparently, is a nod to the Patagonia flag, which is kind of the Argentinian flag with the Welsh dragon in the middle, obviously the founding of Patagonia in South America. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, when do you think they'll come out? We'll see those.
Well, I'm going to guess what they'll do is they'll use the 3 games that they've got in Australia and New Zealand to launch these kits. So tomorrow will be Friday, will be the first game where I'm guessing they'll wear this, and then I wouldn't be surprised then if the day before the next game we get the release of the next kit, and then the day before the third game we get the release of the third kit. I'm not sure. I mean, sadly, and I suppose rightly or wrongly, they want to milk this as much as they can. They're releasing them one at a time to milk it as much as possible. From what I've experienced tonight, trying to order one online, and from what few pictures I've seen, the queues outside that club shop looked ridiculous. So I'm sure they're going to sell, despite the prices, nationally and internationally. I'm sure they're going to sell a truckload of these. But
it
yeah,
was maximum. It was maximum 2 shirts in the queue, apparently, for those of you queuing in the shop, which opened about an hour ago, an hour and a half ago. Maximum 2 shirts per person.
Yeah, well, I would have got 2 and then stitched them together to get one that fits me.
Daz, obviously, looking at it as a neutral, what are your thoughts on this year's Wrexham kit?
Yeah, there's something quite stylish. I like the classy, let's say the thin piping, stuff like that. It's some really nice look. I was going to ask about the centre crest because I don't have the knowledge and the history that you guys have. So, because clubs have had that in Liverpool and Wales as well. So I've seen it and I quite like it when it's done right and then it's in the right way. But this seemed the simplicity and the symmetry of it all means that going centre does seem quite the right choice. And so something quite nice about it.
While I've got you here, it's a little bit off topic, but it'd be interesting to get your take on it. There is a fair debate amongst the fans with regards to the shirt, regards to the club badge, particularly around the Prince of Wales feathers and the motto. I've personally, for one, wish they would get rid of it because for me, I think it's abhorrent. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he's not my prince, he's not my king. So I've always had that philosophy, and that may not sit comfortably with people, but that's the proud Welshman and me going. It does. I have no connection with it. It means nothing, but very little to me. But equally, I am a rugby fan. I do support the Welsh rugby team, and their logo happens to be the feathers themselves. So it would be hypocritical for me to say like I have nothing to do with it. I like watching the Welsh rugby. It would be nice if they also decided to step away from that association and go down the dragon route, or something else. I mean, I know the Scots have got the thistle, the Irish have got the shamrock, and the English have got the rose and stuff. So should they go down the daffodil route, the leek route, whatever, So, yeah, it's what they choose instead. There's up for discussion, but its association with a prince that I don't associate with feels outdated, and
Totally agree.
and in the current climate with everything, and it's only a part of your badge. It's not the be all and end all. Actually, your 2 dragons holding the ball is actually far more interesting for me. It has a certain resonance again about the Welsh identity and the sport. So whether or not the feathers are replaced with a miner's wheel or
exactly. I was just going to say that little miner's wheel that's at the bottom of the shirt. That's what I'd like to see there.
Yeah,
I
totally.
mean, it's interesting at the moment, isn't it? Because there are a number of clubs who are changing their badge. I mean, I think Liverpool changed their badge fairly recently, haven't they, Daz? I think
they went back to the traditional simple liver bird. So they had the crest, not too dissimilar to what you got there with the paisley gates and everything on it and stuff, and they've now gone back to just the bird. Although if you look at all their press stuff, the crest is still the crest. So it's not as if they've abandoned the crest, it's just on the shirt they've gone back to Shankly days. And again, that
it's
history,
that retro, but it's that retro thing, isn't it? There seems to be quite a drive at the moment for retro within football, isn't there?
Yeah. But what you're asking there is to ask a community that I know who perhaps don't agree and align with my philosophy on the royal family, and that's fine. I certainly have no issue to bear with anybody who feels that they have a connection to the royal family. You might be asking some stalwart fans to give up something that they don't see an issue with in the way that I do. or you do, or anybody
Yeah.
else,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so to ask you to change your badge completely in that way, but like I said, immediately to me as the neutral, and Jamie supporting that viewpoint just reassures me that there is something that the Gresford Tower, or it doesn't even have to be the Gresford one, because you don't want to be
Yeah,
marked
no.
the tragedy. You want what I was suggesting. It was a recognition of the community that you've come from, and a part of your history is mining, and so why not celebrate that and recognize that as part of the badge? But
And
you
the thing
might
is,
you might want to
the thing
go
is,
further forward, though. You might think that actually having the miners wheel, because there is no mining industry anymore. So
no, but
why historically put something in when actually you could be a bit more progressive and think forward? So I don't think it should be Robin Ryan. I think that's what I'm trying to say is no Deadpool
Yeah,
or
I
anything like
don't
Deadpool.
that.
think
So
no
yeah,
Deadpool. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, the thing is, there are a number of attractions around the Wrexham area. I mean, you could put Erddig Hall on there. You could put Bronxsutler Viaduct. I mean, that's in the World Heritage site.
totally.
You know what I mean? You
Yeah,
could do that. For me, that would be more relevant for Wrexham and the community than this abomination, this bygone, outdated, you know, serving a king that, as you rightly say, and that's my beliefs, nobody else's. He is not my prince, and he's not my king. So I just think it's. I just
I'd
don't
rather
think it.
be in queue on it, to be honest.
I just don't think it. I just don't think it fits with
No.
the current, because the club have done so well with fitting in everything else. You know that you've got Red Dragons on that piping at the bottom. You know you've got. Wrexham is the name at the top. They in the past have done dragon scales and they've done other bits and pieces.
but gut feeling though, gut feeling. If having seen a similar revamp done at Cardiff City in the last 10, 15 years. Okay, they changed the shirt color and everything, which
Yeah, that
was
was
probably a
stupid.
step too far.
Yeah.
But there was a change to their Bluebird badge, and they've had the Blasian Dragon added to it and stuff like that. So, your gut feeling as being Wrexham local, born and bred, the pair of you, what would be your gut feeling as the general consensus about losing that? How nationalist or non-nationalist or because obviously you've got a military presence in your community as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah. Yeah.
historically.
Yeah.
So there may be a little bit more of a tie into the royal family as a proud nationalist of British nationalist. What would be your gut feeling of the community that you're speaking to, your fans and stuff? That if you were to lose that, would people go, "That's our badge, and that's history"?
I think the majority of Wrexham fans would
Agree.
happily get rid of it. I
Yeah,
think they would
agree.
want to keep
100%.
the badge the same shape and size, and that differential between the Dragons and the football, absolutely. The nice scroll at the bottom with the date and Wrexham AFC on it, absolutely. It's having 18. I mean, it's not even Welsh.
Yeah.
It's awful. It doesn't fit for me. It's a bad fit. And I feel. I mean, Jamie, how do you think fans would feel about it?
I agree 100%. When Daz asked that question, my thought as an answer was, I think the vast majority would absolutely be in support of removing the feathers. The problem that you're going to have is that it's such a huge thing to do, isn't it? To change your club crest is such a huge thing to do, and you are never going to please everybody. And is it the sort of thing that you've got to remember now? Wrexham's a brand, it's a global
Mm.
brand, and that is the logo of this global brand. Now, other companies change and tweak their logos over time. We've seen some huge companies. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but that's another thing that adds a little bit of difficulty to it. But
Yeah,
I,
but
I,
I mean,
I
not every company is going to struggle in the way that Jif went to SIF. I mean, I know that's a problem. I know that's a problem with some people, but I was thinking more like Juve going for the stylized J from the
yeah,
historical crest. That is a
yeah,
very different departure.
yeah,
Or
yeah.
Swindon, or Bournemouth with the guy washing his hair or something.
Well,
All of these very modernized crests.
well,
I
that's
don't know if they.
interesting. That's interesting you say about the modernised crest, because I think from what I've read, quite a few Premier League clubs now, and I dare say other big clubs in the world, what they're doing is they're having a simplified variation of their main badge for like their second and third kits. And from what I read, apparently it's because it makes production costs a hell of a lot cheaper to have. If you look at Newcastle, excuse me, if you look at Newcastle as
You
an example.
Yeah.
Go on, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say take a drink.
Oh
What I
yeah,
was
sorry. No,
gonna say.
yeah. No. If you look at Newcastle's as an example, obviously because their crest is obviously very famous. B is quite intricate. If you look at it, it's the similarities to the sort of shape and size and detail to it with ours really. But if you look, I think it's their third kit now. They've gone for it's like a round logo. It's just NUFC. The letters made this round plain circle. And I think there's quite a few clubs doing that. But what do you think of this kit? You're our resident kit expert. What do you think of it?
I love it. I love it. I mean, as I say, this one I have here is a big favourite of mine because it reminds me. It was one of the first shirts that I ever bought myself. Having when it was Crosville, when it was the first, because I was so interested of having because before Crosville there were no sponsors on shirts. You didn't get them. So it was Wrexham's first sponsor. So for me, it was like, wow, and I ride those buses. Oh, I'll love that. So I like the fact that the crest was in the middle, and it was just a really nice shirt. And it does take us back, and I think it's no surprise to me. I mean, when you look at the photographs we've got up at the moment, you know, the fact that they've done the nod, the Max replicating the famous Joey Jones photograph, and these 6 legends here who are all wearing the shirt, you know, brilliantly as elder statesmen of the club. It's no surprise to me that they've gone for a design which takes us back to the last time we were in the Championship. I mean, everything sort of comes full circle. So yeah, I mean, I'll definitely buy it. There's no doubt about that. I will buy it directly from the shop when I go up next time. But I think it's a lovely shirt. I think it's really, really nice. I will want to see it in the flesh because obviously it's, you know, it can be one thing when you look at it on a photograph, but you actually to see it in the flesh. But I'm sure I'm not going to be disappointed. And I'm with you, Jamie. I wish they hadn't put the Macron logo on the front. If they had kept that off, that for me would have been the chef's kiss. That would have been perfect.
The socks are nice when you look at it as a full kit as well. The socks are nice with the red with the white stripe.
With the white band.
That really complements it nice. I tell you, one last thing I did think of when I saw that picture of those legends that were released today. Tell you what, I reckon Gary Bennett could still do a job for us up front. He's proper lean, doesn't he?
Too right, yeah, he does. I mean, the rest of them have put on a bit of spread. Sorry, Andy Morel, by the way, about saying that. I mean, I'm sure you won't mind us. But yeah, Psycho looks like he could definitely put a pair of shorts on and get stuck in there. And as I put on social media for us, all we really needed for me was Billy Ashcroft and Lee Trundle in there, and that would have been that's it. You're done. You're sorted. That's like proper royalty. So yeah, I mean, brilliant. But well done, the club. Club shop is now open officially. The Eagles Meadow shop is now open. Or the online shop is now open, so you can order your shirts from there. Obviously, we'll be waiting, and we will review the away shirt and the third shirt when they come out, and we'll have a comment on those too.
Come and see the Reds with me, and you will swear that you have seen a vision. We don't just know they feel when they beat the life and feel. We're off to the second division.
So Cymru Women opened their Euro campaign, their first ever finals, to a very, very emotional opening versus the Netherlands. I, for one, you know, I'm such an old softie. I was in absolute floods of tears. There is nothing more emotional for me as a Welsh person to listen to the Welsh national anthem sung with such gusto and such passion. And you could see, I mean, Jess Fishlock was properly singing her lungs out on that opening line. Obviously, you know, Netherlands, tough opposition in the 11 in the world. A really, really good starting 11. We were starting with the back three and wingers. You know, some great players in there. And I thought we did well for probably the first 44 minutes, and then I think the class just stood up. Gents, not sure if you've seen it. What are your thoughts on it? Daz, you first.
Yeah, no, I think you know, let's put it into context. Lowest ranked team. So by virtue of being the lowest ranked team, everybody is expecting to beat you, or everybody's expecting those teams to be better than you. So, actually, we talked about it last week. It's a free pass in that way to do what do the best they could and try and achieve, so going into the tournament, there was no expectation, and I think that helps, but also I feared that there was a little bit of sense of it doesn't matter. We're here to enjoy. We're here to really experience it. And there's truth in that. I don't deny that the experience of going to a major tournament for the first time ever is not going to have a lasting legacy. There's going to be an opportunity for some of these young players to build on that, play on that, and not have to worry about it being the first time. You only have to see the men in 2021 or in 2023. So, sorry, 22.
Two, yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
COVID messed everything up. I know
COVID
what you
messes
mean.
all
Yeah,
up. So,
yeah,
that
absolutely.
to begin with, was a bit of a weird one. But I, but clearly, the emotion of the occasion got to them, and
Mm.
I can't even fathom how emotional an experience it was for a Fishlock to be able to say 19 plus years of graft, desperate, being top of her game, desperate for some sort of international progress. Not because she wants to be on that, not because there's something to win or that she'll be the best player in the tournament. Of course not. It's just when you're good at what you do, you want to put it on the top stage, and Fishlock has deserved to be at that top table, and so I don't know how much of that emotion came through from going, we've got these legends to the tournament, or simply some of these younger players who are going, well, this is my first campaign. I mean, we've qualified, isn't that great?
Yeah.
But the fact that they didn't know also how to step up to the challenge of all of that. So it was very emotional. I mean, the fans were incredible. I mean, if
I
we
mean,
start,
let's just put the enormity of this for a second, right? 30 years ago, the Welsh women's football team was not even recognised by its own football
yeah,
association, right?
yeah,
2011, only 2011 did we have our first professional coach.
yeah,
Before that, we were having amateur coaches.
yeah.
You know,
It's
that's such a short period of time in football
It
terms,
is,
isn't it?
it is, it is, and BBC Wales, big shout out, done a great documentary about Together Stronger
Yep,
for the ladies' game,
it's really
and the
good.
fact that it's
And you will
when you
cry if you. I did.
oh if yeah
I cried like a baby.
it's you look at some of the legends we've had through the eras, whether it's um, Laura McAllister or Jane Ludlow, some of these players, Jane Ludlow played for City at a time when they were groundbreaking, and yeah, she came back and managed, and we all know about that. But there were some great players that should have been
Helen
on.
Maud. I mean, Helen
Oh,
Maud. It's the Ryan Giggs thing all over again. You know, a player like Ryan Giggs never made it to the world stage. It's
yeah,
the same with Helen Maud. Never
yeah.
made it to the world stage. It is a
So
crime.
totally, and on the shoulders of these giants, this team has been built, but it wasn't just about on the pitch. I think Laura McAllister was being instrumental in governance. The fact that she's on the um, UEFA committees and stuff like
She
that,
is.
whether it
Yeah,
was
she
or
is.
FIFA, I can't remember, the UEFA thing.
UEFA. Yep.
There's it's taken such a long time to get to those situations. So we've got this huge amount of politics, huge amount of sort of governance and management and recognition and all of those things boiling along, and we know all of that history. And yet you've got these 11 people on the pitch, and they're all experiencing it for the first time in many different ways. Whether it's, like I say, Fishlock, 19 years of perseverance and desperately wanting to, missing out so closely last time around, and against Switzerland, against England, against all of these nearly, and then you've got some young players coming through who I've got no knowledge. Or no, they probably have the knowledge. They've probably been told, but they have no concept of what that missing out. And I feel like that was a little bit I like about your Ampadu's and your Harry Wilsons and your people like that. The freedom of not being shackled to this history it kind of shows in some ways, but they still don't know how to handle that experience, that moment. And there was clearly nerves. There was clearly a lot of
Mm.
emotion. The fans. So the fans, the march they did,
Yep.
through the city,
7,000 with the Dutch fans.
with the Dutch,
7,000.
the red and the orange. I mean, you've got two great fan armies there. You've got the
Mm.
red wall and the orange army, and it's
Mm.
just this block of color. and then it was mixed together, and it was just a fabulous display of, first of all, and I will take, sorry, I'll finish my sentence in a moment, but I will take umbrage that some people saying like you don't get this in the men's game. I would put money on if the
No.
Red Wall and the Orange Army
Absolutely.
were there for the men, they would have done the
Absolutely.
same kind of. It's two good footballing nations who really respect for each other, and there's no animosity or hatred, and they
No.
don't need that. It's not like
No.
the old English or the Russian or
Yeah.
the Polish. You know, there are some
What do
nations
you
that just
mean?
like.
Throwing patio furniture is not the way to do it.
Apparently
Correct.
not. No, apparently
Correct.
not.
And so, but I do respect the fact that this was a perfect demonstration. The women's game has got such good positive support from both these nations, and I just love the fact that they did the march through the town, 7,000 people heading to the match together in the spirit of just wanting to enjoy football. And unfortunately, couldn't be there. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford the £30 pizzas. So you know, with me with money, that's a pizza too far.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. No,
But no, but
absolutely.
I think there was a lot of people who went. I know so many people who went who said they had just such a brilliant time because the atmosphere was good, the spirit was good, the fans, the away fans, the opponents. I'm sorry. So all of that added, and what a day, what a day, and to be able to chalk that off and say they've done it now, the emotion of that occasion. I don't think we can underestimate that, and I think, well, we'll come on to the French game, but already they've learned from it. Just doing it once was so important. So I thought it was a great spirited performance, and you can talk about the game in the moment. But I don't know, Jamie, if you want to say anything about the occasion.
I think you're spot on. You could see what it meant to them. That anthem before the game. I mean, I think whenever you watch international football or international sport generally, it's always an emotional time for a lot of players. But you could, like you said, you could just see how much it meant to them. And like you said, for someone like Jess Furstock, who spent so long as a professional, to finally kind of get there, you could see it, what it meant to her in particular. I think that it's been. I've not watched many of the other games other than the two Wales games, to be honest with you. But it was nice to see packed out stadiums, what looked like a good atmosphere. Like you said about the kind of interactions between the fan bases. I totally agree with you. I don't think it's a different in the women's side than it is for the men's. I think you're spot on with what you say. I think it's two different nations who have a different sort of level of respect for the game than certain other nations, shall we say? But yeah, I think it looks. I think I think you were right. I think the occasion maybe just was a little bit kind of intense for them. I think we knew, didn't we? We knew that they were. We knew all of these games were going to be difficult. We've talked about it for a long time. As soon as we knew the draw, this is the worst possible draw we could have or group we could have had. So we knew we were going to be up against it in all of these games. We were going to be up against teams we were going to have a lot of the ball, who were going to pass the ball around, who were going to pull us around the pitch and everything else. I think for me, the biggest thing that I think got caught us out in this game was the timing of certainly of the first goal, but then the second goal as well, because it was very similar to some of the recent defeats that we've had, where we've conceded goals at silly times, well, not silly times, but bad times from the point of view of where it is in the game. Because it was literally just before half time, wasn't it, when we conceded that first goal?
Literally,
And then the second goal was only 2 or 3 minutes after the restart. So to concede 2 goals either side of the half time really did kind of knock the stuffing out of us. I think, but you can't you can't sort of diminish the quality of the opposition. They got some really, really, really good players. Players I've not seen play before. Really good players, to be fair.
Yeah, but I think you're right though. I think that's the difference. We're looking at the stats there in terms of a third of the possession compared to two-thirds. So dominated. The XG it was like 0.17. So they just didn't get into the game, and that's a huge part of Wales's recent success is being able to actually at times be able to sort of play it out from the back and own own the game and have possession and stuff and just be completely dominated. I think you're right. The timing of the two goals, one before if they could have got into half time 0-0, and they were so close to doing it, I still don't think it would have changed the outcome of the game. I think Netherlands are that good. But it would have just given a little, I don't know, just little mini wins, just these little mini wins of saying, look, we got through a whole half where we just matched them. And even if their fitness level, their quality then pushes through, just to get to halftime and say 0-0 would be worthy of any news. I think it would have been worthy of the news. They were disciplined. They were organised. And the one moment where they didn't give Medina, is it Medina the goal scorer? Yeah, their record goal scorer or significant, their captain. They double marked. They marked her out the game. They just didn't give her the space. And the one moment she has the ball and couldn't find the space, faints, gives a little bit more space, not enough, faints back onto her stronger foot. There was just the class of that one player alone made enough room, suddenly just enough room to get the shot away and top bin. And it's a quality goal made by herself, because they weren't outplayed in that goal. That wasn't quality sort of Dutch tippy tap or anything like that. It was just a individual making room for themselves and getting their 100th goal, which just saying it's her 100th goal shows you the caliber they're dealing with. I mean, they're going back to your stats earlier, Si, about the fact that Wales weren't recognised as a club by their own nation and stuff like that. Cymru have only ever played 243 times. Their sub came on for their 245th appearance. They have one player who's played more games for their country than Wales have ever played. I mean, that just shows you the recognition that the game has in that country.
I mean,
and how long it took us.
Playing devil's advocate, do you think they gave her too much time and space on the edge of the box? Because she obviously went 1 foot back, and then shot.
Well, yeah, devil's advocate, that's what they should have done. But she's good. She's good.
You've got to acknowledge the quality. You can pick the bones out of something defensively and say, "Oh, you could have done this, you should have done that, you should have been closer." All you want, but you sometimes have to tip your hat off to a moment of quality, and that's what it was. It was like that's she hadn't been in the game for that half of the game.
You're absolutely spot on.
I think the commentators
that plan had worked. Obviously, there was a plan to try and mark her out of the game, and that worked up to that point.
Yeah,
they just switched off.
I think as well as that, I think the commentator said she'd been out and not played a lot of football for in recent weeks because she's been out with an injury. So I'm guessing probably wasn't even fully fit. But you're right. They did the job on her for 45 minutes. It was just that it just took that one moment, and that's the difference, isn't it? With quality, if you've got somebody who's got genuine quality, it doesn't matter how out of the game they are. It just takes that one moment, and in it goes.
Well, a few days later then, Cymru played France Women, who are ranked one place higher, 10th in the world, came away with a 4-1 loss. Leading up to the game, there was a bit of a distraction where the team bus was involved in a car accident. Thankfully, everybody on the team bus was okay. Wilkinson and Captain Anghara James were actually in a different vehicle on their way to a press conference, and they only found out as they entered the press conference when the press told them that this happened. They cancelled training for that day, went back to base, did some work at base, and then came out the next day afterwards. Thankfully, though, everybody was okay. Major changes. One surprise for me was Safia Middleton-Patel coming in. She only had 5 caps up to that point in goal. Obviously, I mean, whether there was something wrong with Olivia Clark, but she was on the bench, so maybe it's just Wilkinson giving players a chance, which is great. Wilkinson did change, though, to a 4-4-2 from a back three with wingers. In came, obviously, Katie Barton and Fionn Morgan to add a little bit more power up front, I think, to try because of the physicality. France, for their part, made 7 changes, which was a little bit of a kick in the teeth, because basically that's saying, we don't need to put our best players out. We can change over half the squad and we know we're still going to beat you. Obviously, we did lose 4-1. Again, early goal hit us hard. The one plus, though, for us was, who else? Jess Fishlock scoring Cymru's first ever international goal at finals. And I love VAR. Did I tell you that? Did I mention that? I love VAR. I love VAR to bits. Unfortunately, though, I mean, France were so strong. They were so good. We gave away a penalty at one point with a really clumsy tackle. And you just knew as soon as she went down, that's going to be a penalty. And
again, though, moment of quality that was. You could be
totally.
critical of the defender, but that was the movement with the ball at her feet was just ridiculous, and totally invited the tackle.
Just on the game itself, Daz, do you think Cymru played better, less nerves, lifted their game?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, okay, so Netherlands, former winners, 2017, so a powerhouse. France are considered more of a powerhouse at the moment in terms of rankings, wins, and stuff like that. So this was supposed to be a step up. Let's not forget we're about to play the current holders. So this group was never going to be easy, and they've gone up step by step by step. So to be able to remove the nerves, it pains me to say that the team not to have had that moment against was the Netherlands, because they were the team I think they had the best chance to play against, but the nerves just crippled them. This time there was I genuinely think that, okay, maybe it was the formation structure, some personnel changes, but they felt more robust. I know we conceded 8 minutes in, but it was a quality
Set
finish.
piece,
And you can and sort of, I'm sure, set piece coaches will argue that you should be able to defend something like that, and the set piece coaches, they should be able to score against that. But the defense got the head to it. It kind of hopped over the top, but it was a very quick takedown and played it very. There was no time to think about it, and yes, there was a little bit of an experience and a bit of ball watching at the far post. I can't remember who was marking the goal scorer, but there was a little bit of naivety there. But all it takes against a quality side like this is just one moment, and the goal is in. So. But then they continued for the majority of that half. Okay, France probably played with confidence because they were already 1-0 ahead. Then that allows you to play a slightly different game when you're ahead. But they were in it. They were in it.
We had them on the rack in that first half for a good 15-minute period. After
Yeah.
the first goal we scored, and then we were coming straight back at them with some beautiful fluid play through midfield. Incredible.
Well, I was going to say the goal itself is a perfect example of how that dominance or that confidence came through. If you're a team parking a bus, worried about conceding against the top teams in this league, you could be forgiven to be defensive block, all of that through. You look at this goal, Fishlock, this 4 Welsh attackers bombing the line, absolutely bombing the line. There's no defense here. That's not a defensive block. That is not parking the bus. There was Kerry Holland, as you know, I'm a big fan. Just brilliant down the wing, taking on players, and as consistently in the warm up, in the sort of the lead up to this tournament, already 2 games in, has shown how good she is. Comes down the left flank, drives up the defense, but she's got support, 3 other players in support. That is not a defensive team going for the draw. So the fact that she okay. There was a little bit of fortune where the ball ricochets a bit, but actually Kerry once again gets a foot to it, knowing she needs to stop and intercept. And while she's lying on the floor, flicks it, and it lands in the path of Jess Fishlock. But Jess is the ultimate sharp athlete, and her awareness, her reaction times are phenomenal, and totally deserved that goal, because that was an ambition. That was bravery that deserved some sort of result, and I think they did that. A good amount, but they defended when they needed to, and for a whole half, then going right up until half time, they, like you said, there was a period of time when Wales suddenly had a bit of wind in their sail. France controlled it, sucked it out a little bit every now and again. Company would try a bit more, but you've got a quality side there with strength and depth and all sorts, and they've been playing together for a while, and they know how to win games, and you could see that a little bit more than perhaps with us, but to just go in again, if you can go into the interval break sort of thinking a draw, holding them to level pegging, would just be again some sort of psychological mini win. That first half, we matched you, and it will last. These near misses, they will resonate. The players will remember these moments and stuff. But it's just something different about going into the half at nil in the first case, or one, or whatever. It's just unfortunate, and somebody's got to put the foot in. Kerry Holland's got to try and stop that play, because he was given too much time, and the threat was there, and she knew she had to do something. But Jamie said it earlier, some fast feet, some really silky moves, some really clever play, and drew it. I don't know, she had to stop her somehow, but she went for the shot. Foot's taken away from her, but she's and that's a pen all day. But just to say, fair play to
Nearly.
in terms of goalkeeping,
She nearly got it. Yeah.
she nearly got it. Now,
I mean, it
some
was a
of
rubbish
that,
penalty. It was a rubbish
I was about to
penalty.
say, some of that was to
Yeah.
do with that was probably one of the worst penalties I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
But that was somebody who was waiting for the goalkeeper to move, was obviously not getting anything, and at the
No.
very last millisecond changed their mind and where they were pushing it, and didn't get it quite right. And so there's some, you'd like to say credit the goalkeeper in terms of putting that doubt in their mind, and got a foot to it, but it just trickled. But there was nobody there for the follow up anyway. It was always going in. So yeah, you got to.
So you've been nice to goalkeepers. Now's your chance to be horrible to goalkeepers, which is what you're much more used to, Des.
Was I that predictable? I wanted to give her all the credit I could, because I thought it was going really well. I thought this is good, and then there's no way of sugarcoating what happened next.
No.
Their third goal is a goalkeeping error. Now, I'm going to say that she passes it out to the right back, and it comes straight back at her. Now, credit the French striker. Proper badger button on the old FIFA there, going straight in, hassle, and put an inexperienced goalkeeper, under pressure. And would you say 5 caps?
5 caps, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a 6th.
So they've done if they've done their research, they know she's inexperienced. She might be on the books of Man U, but she's not played that many games. And so you got to credit the French there. But her inexperience is, the threat was coming in. At that point, you forget the game plan about possession. Rosette it. Just get it out. Put your foot through it. Yeah. Go try and get it down the line with a bit of curve. And if it comes back into play, then you hope that one of your wingers picks it up. You don't try and feint and not. I don't know. It was so badly executed that I'm not entirely sure what it was she was trying to do, but it was not the right thing to do in that moment. Fair play to the striker. Looks up, sees the support play, plenty of support play coming through at the edge of the box, finds the open player, and boom, straight in. Great first touch. Goal taken first time. So yes, clinical, but the error was given. The opportunity was put on a plate, and so yes. And of course, she holds her hands up. She knows she did. She knows she made the mistake. Like I say, perhaps put under a little bit unnecessary pressure by the defender. But the defender,
I mean, were you surprised she was chosen for?
Well, I
fairly
was
key
curious.
in.
I haven't read anything about Clark. So whether or not Clark was carrying a niggle, whether or
But then
not,
why is she on the bench? Because we have a third keeper.
yeah,
So why is she on
yeah,
the bench if she's got a niggle?
a niggle, but not worth risking because you want to keep your best goalkeeper for England, or do you? I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
Somebody said to me, somebody said to me is, oh, maybe they're just going to play for a dead rubber. And I'm like, but there's no dead rubber in this group because everybody will want to play in the England game, even
Yeah,
if it
yeah,
doesn't
yeah, yeah,
mean, I
yeah.
mean, doesn't mean anything. Everybody will want to play against England. So there's no dead rubber.
And as results go, we could be,
Oh, we could
if
spoil the pie.
we
We'll
could
talk about
spoil
that
England's
later.
party,
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
We'll talk about that later.
so
We'll
if
talk about
there's
that a bit later.
any motivation, there you have it. So I do think that it was I was surprised. Going back to the formation as well, we played 4-4-2 or versions of 4-2-3-1, or
Yeah.
there's different versions, before at the back or five at the back. It's usually five at the back or three at the
Hmm.
back with
With
absolute
wingers. Yeah.
both wingers
Yeah.
being pretty
Yeah.
much midfielders.
Yeah.
And so it was an interesting choice, but we have played it, so there's no criticism there. And actually, for a period of time, it seemed to be working. It meant that
Okay. Yeah.
you're not you're not missing that extra player in midfield. You've then got a little bit more options, and then when we did attack, like I said, there were four.
We say
There was,
four up front. That scene where the four of them are all going in a line, and you
yeah,
can see the French defense absolutely bricking it because they're
yeah,
like, "Whoa, we're overloaded, massively overloaded. We don't know what to do." So
yeah,
yeah, it was very
and
interesting to see.
and so the potential was there, but of course, we've given them that opportunity with the penalty before the half, and then um, uh, it's once you've got that, once you can see the goal in that way, spirits are the dent in that, the dent caused by that.
I know what you're saying, Daz, but I don't think the heads went down as
No,
much as they have done in the past. I think in the past, if a team has scored against us, the heads would drop so much that before you know it, we're 3-0 down and there's no chance.
yeah,
Whereas with this one, we got 1-0 down and then we absolutely fought straight back and we kept our heads up. And I think that's the difference for me between Gemma Granger, who ironically tonight, who's currently now in charge of Norway, they've topped their group and they're through to the quarterfinals. So congratulations to Gemma Granger, ex-World
hmm
manager. That for me is the difference between her and Rhian Wilkinson. Rhian Wilkinson is obviously instilled in this team. Listen, we go a goal down, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You just carry on doing what you're supposed to be doing. We will get back into the game. Do not let your heads drop. Carry on.
she,
That for
she's
me is the
she's good for
drive you
sound
go.
bites, is Wilco. And one of the things I
Yeah.
heard her say was the fact that she knows that the game against Netherlands was not them playing to their true capacity, and so it's not saying give us a pass because it was our first time. She's going, look, it doesn't matter what the cause of it was, that wasn't us at our best.
No.
So
No.
if you've got a manager that believes, saying, I've seen you play better, I know you can do better, so let's believe that will happen. And I think there's a lot of faith and trust in the system in that way. Yes, of course, you've got inspirational leaders in Fishlock on the pitch. It was great to see Sophie come on for the last 5 minutes of the
That
game.
was brilliant. Yeah, the battle
Yeah.
that she's had with her ACL since
Oh,
September last year. Amazing
again,
that she came on and played some time at all.
lifts the crowd, lifts the
Totally.
team. It's so there are really clever bits of man management that Wilco
For those who
does.
don't know, she was Cymru captain for 9 years, relinquished the armband willingly when Wilkinson came in because Wilkinson wanted to freshen things up a bit. Had this ACL injury and has had a real fight to get back into the squad, and has
Yeah.
absolutely worked her socks off to get back in.
Yeah,
So it
and
great
was
to
out
see.
there in Ireland when we got the qualifiers, and one of the
Yeah,
first people that all the players went to celebrate and whisked her away from the commentary box was just they know she's an
captain,
integral part of
fantastic.
that
She really
team,
is. Yeah,
yeah. And
absolutely.
so there's some wins along the way. There were some really clever decisions by the management in that sense. So there is a bit of legacy building or building on the experience, getting the youngsters in. Yes, you've got some players coming to the ends of that career now. Obviously, it's very unlikely we're going to see Fishlock in the next one.
No, I wouldn't think so.
It's probably it for Sophie. There aren't many players who have given their all, but you've
Yeah.
still got Lily Woodham, you've got Kerry Holland, you've got um, Hughes. You've got some real youngsters who are playing top flight, consistently playing.
It's players like me, like Lois Joel. She's the kind of the ones I look at when I'm thinking she's 17, 18, start of her career, and yet she came on and she really got at them. She really got at France.
Proper
Just for the
energy. She's a bundle of energy.
Yeah,
That's the thing, isn't
absolutely.
it?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
Fionn Morgan as well. I mean, I know you're a massive fan of Fionn Morgan.
The
She
pace
was
she's got.
lightning fast. So that's, for me, is the future. I mean,
Yeah.
it's funny. Somebody asked me online while I was watching the game about the women, and I said, for me, the Wales women at the moment are a bit like the Cymru men were around 2012, 2013. They're now breaching that wall of we're finally getting to a finals. Now is what we can build, because we've got young players coming through. The structure behind the scenes is better than it ever has been. Now the FAW are actually putting the effort in towards the.
Yeah.
It still needs more. It needs more. It's
Yeah.
not. We shouldn't rest on our laurels, but it's better than it was.
But don't forget, we've never beaten a top 10 team, right? So we've not been we've not been a strong team until now. We've only drawn 4 times against top team players, so we've never beaten them. And 3 of those draws have come in the last 18 months.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
so that just shows the absolute tidal shift that's happened initially under previous management, but absolutely kicked on massively by Rian Wilkinson, that this team is now delivering consistently at a level and is at least competing with these quality sides who have got pedigree,
Totally.
they've got history, and we're looking at these teams like the France goal scorer plays for Barcelona, best team in the world. We've got players that there was a Barcelona player for the Netherlands. We've got players in the England squad that are coming up now that they are City players, Arsenal players, Chelsea players, and they just win all the time. So it's still, even if we were to put all the right things in place, there's still a lot to assume that we can compete. And yet, for a little nation, we somehow do. Now, I would also say that you invited me in to talk about goalkeepers. I appreciate it, so thank you. Is that there was still there was a little bit of naivety on the other goal as well, which is there was a cross. I think the keeper can come in and claim that. The hesitancy allowed, there was just a gap, and then the goal scored. So I do think that the final goal was also somewhat down to the goalkeeping. But I'm not gonna bash the goalkeeper for being, this is, your 5th or 6th ever cap, not playing regularly for your club. This is the difference, and we've talked about this in the men's game. When you've got players, and particularly goalkeepers, who aren't playing regularly for their club sides, it's going to make a difference. And I do think there's a part of building some sort of. She's only 20, so she's got a long career to come, and I do think Wilco's probably blooding that experience in major tournament experience. She's not going to forget this. There's a wonderful article about her. I think it's BBC website because she's autistic. She talks about how she prepares for her games. She talks about how the attention to detail, the fact that she loves her fans, but she doesn't want to talk to them. She doesn't want people to come up and ask her and touch her. She has a range of challenges that she manages, and yet she's only 20. I mean, I just think that it just sort of says so much about her as a professional, that I think she'll only learn from this. She's only going to learn from this. She'll look at the details. She'll look at how they played. She'll know what she did or what she didn't do. And whilst being at a club that's being incredibly supportive of her situation, the Man U have been very, it's just a really interesting read if anybody gets a chance. But I just think that's something that Rian's looking at is, right, what is the future? When we come back in 4 years, which obviously that's the aim, will she be able to call on some of those seniors players? No. So how can we make sure that everybody's, what are we taking away from this tournament that we can learn and learn and learn that doesn't get lost as soon as somebody retires? And I do think that there's something really, really important about that. Of course, England to come, might change my mind after that.
We'll talk about that in a bit. Jamie can't get a word in edgeways, bless him. What are your thoughts, mate, on how the Cymru women have dealt with these 2 games and their kind of involvement in the Euros in general?
I think they should be very proud. Like I said a minute ago, and like we've talked about before, we knew the scale of what they were going to come up against in this tournament. And two games in, two defeats. You look at the score lines and you think, two heavy defeats for want of a better word. But it's not been like that. I think regardless of what happens against the neighbours, I think they can take a lot of positives out of this. Again, just briefly going back to the France game, for me, I think the biggest thing with that again was what really hurt us was the timing of two of the goals. Their second goal and then their third goal. I think the timing of those and the way they came about, hurt us because the penalty, it was avoidable, but like I said before, it was a great bit of skill. The goalkeeper mistake, unfortunately, when you're playing at the highest level, you make a mistake, which players make mistakes in every game. But sadly, when you're playing at the highest level, it's going to get amplified, particularly for a goalkeeper. Yeah. There's nowhere to hide. I think she was, to me, I think she was caught in two minds. I think she was caught between, wasn't sure as to boot it or try and.
I still think she did incredible. For somebody
she made some brilliant saves.
Caps,
yeah. Oh,
she's a young player. She did some cracking saves. She had foresight. There was one time in particular where you could see France were breaking. She could see that the cross was going to come over and it was going to miss the defender, and she feinted in right to the edge of the box and intercepted. Now normally goalkeepers, when they see that, they will back away, thinking, right, give myself some space so I've got time so I can see what's going to happen. But no, she saw the danger before the defenders did, and went in. Now she's a young player with 5 caps. That's got to bode well for the future.
I hope what I'm about to say comes across as a compliment, as I'm intending it, and not derogatory in any way, because I genuinely mean this as a compliment. But one thing that I have noticed, and particularly with her, is she we've talked before about the whole size of the goals debate with women's football, because physically, generally, the women are physically smaller, so there's that question mark over should there be different goals, but then no, they shouldn't. It should be played on the same pitches and the same facilities and everything else. But like that penalty you were talking about before, when she stood in the middle of that goal, it really amplifies kind of how much space there is for them to score it. So where I'm going to with this, and if you compare, her performance and some of the other goalkeepers at this level to, let's say, the Adran Premier, which we're used to watching with Wrexham, and obviously we've talked about the goalkeeping at that level, there is a chasm of difference between the physicality and the athleticism of the goalkeepers playing at this top level. So despite their maybe smaller size in the full size goals, the way that they move around and Safia Middleton Patel highlighted that perfectly, because some of the way she flew around that goal and made some brilliant saves for that game. I really felt for her making that mistake. I'm sure she would have had a big arm around her from Rhian Wilkinson and all the other players, and nobody would have given her any criticism for it. She'll know and she'll learn from it. Massive future ahead of her. So,
and I think that's the key, isn't it? Learning from it. They were all the experience. That's invaluable. You can't buy that. You can't do that in training. To actually be in a finals, even if you are the lowest ranked team, you can't buy that, and that's the important bit, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Now, on the Eat More Chips podcast, it's time for today's newspaper, tomorrow's chip paper, where we catch up on Cymru and Wrexham football news. Wrexham Academy are currently in Canada. They've played 2 games already against Halifax Wanderers. The first game they lost 3-0 in front of 7,000 fans. This team includes some under-16 players who are playing way above their level, plus a few new names that we've not seen before. So it'll be interesting to see what those players will do moving forward from the season. Second game, which I watched last night online, they were much better. They lost 1-0. Much better display compared to the first game. They seemed more, they gelled more. They were unlucky. The referee was appalling last night. The amount of awful tackles that Wanderers did, and he only gave his one yellow card in the 89th minute. There was one definite penalty. There should have been a penalty where somebody was chopped down right on the edge of the box. I mean, but there you go. You can't buy that. And I was noticing there was some of the Canadian on the chat saying, "Yep, that's the standard of refereeing." So there you go. On the club side, Callum Burton has signed a new contract. Obviously, 28 years old. He already still had a year left on his contract, but he's now signed until the end of the 26-27 season. And Brooke Cairns has left the club. She put a statement out on social media which said, "I would like to say a massive thank you to everyone involved in Wrexham Football Club as my time comes to an end. This club has played a huge part in my journey, which I will be forever grateful for, but I feel now is the right time to take the next step in my career." And then she thanked the fans, she thanked the manager, coaching staff, everybody behind the scenes, and lastly, the players themselves. Let's just go back very, very quickly to Callum Burton. Obviously, we've got Danny Ward coming in, which lots of people are saying, yeah, he's not going to want to sit on the bench as a number 3. He's probably going to be a number 2. You surprised then that the fact that they've offered Callum Burton a bit more of a bit more money, a bit more contract? Are they trying to sort of sweeten him? Do you think, or was this always a plans?
On Danny Ward, what was really interesting this week, I don't know if you listened to Mark Crichton on the Fearless podcast this week. Obviously, Crichton is big friends with Danny Ward, so he had a really good insight into the move, and he said on that podcast that Danny Ward has basically said to Park he's not coming to sit on the bench. His intention is to come and fight for the number 1 spot. So
wow.
I think I'd like to think there's no negatives in that, because you would hope that if you've got a quality number 2 pushing you, then hopefully that takes Arthur to another level, which is what we probably would want. And if for whatever reason, Danny Ward has to come in, then great. The Callum Burton thing was a little bit of a surprise. My take on it is, I think as soon as Wrexham signed Danny Ward, his agent probably got on the phone and said, "What's going on here?" And I think the club have, obviously wanting to keep him on the books, have probably just given him a bit more money and give him a bit of a sweetener. It wouldn't surprise me if he goes out on loan, because I think he's if you look at the 3 goalkeepers we've got, any one of them is too good to not be involved in a match day squad. So, and somebody is going to be, assuming that they all stay fit. So it wouldn't surprise me if he went out on loan. But who knows? I was a little bit surprised when I thought about it. I think it was I don't think it was planned. I think it was a reaction to the club signing Danny Ward.
What do you think, Daz? I mean, Danny, as we said last week in the pod, he is a proven Premiership footballer and proven Championship footballer. Surprised he's saying, "Okay, well, I'm going to go for number 1. I'm going to fight for the jersey."
No, I'm not surprised he's saying it. Whether or not the club will see that as the default position, I'm not so sure. I mean, there's a huge amount of investment in Arthur. There's a huge expectation and sort of the view was Arthur was your future planning for the next couple of seasons, because he is a Championship goalkeeper minimum. Obviously he was at a Premiership club. So he got he was on loan or whatever he was at Championship. We know what he can do, and we know what Danny Ward can do. He is definitely Championship minimum, probably still Prem. So you've got 2 goalkeepers, both really on paper and proven are fairly similar in level. Youth, age, experience, all of that. Both have different qualities. They're both different types of goalkeeper. So I don't think it's surprising that he's talking like that, because I think Danny Ward is competitive. I think he will want to say, why would I just admit signing for the money and sitting on the bench? So I think he was always going to say that. But I also think he believes that he can be part of a successful story at a Championship side and gain the promotion or whatever it is that the next stage of the club's future. He did that at Huddersfield. He did that when he was on loan there. He, has played at some big clubs, and I think he feels he's got something to offer. So, and like Jamie said, if you've got somebody pushing you, then Arthur can't be complacent. I mean,
no, not at all. He still has things to learn, Arthur. He's not the finished article, not by a long chalk. Yes, he's a great shot stopper, But
Yeah.
many people say he's not vocal enough.
Yeah.
He doesn't really command the box in a way that you would expect a keeper of his size to do. He's not the finish. And his kicking is appalling. At times is awful. So he's not the finished article. So there's definitely
Yeah.
there's for me it's definitely not a no. There's no chance that Danny Ward will have the number 1 jersey. And I think it's healthy that Arthur is going to have some competition.
Yeah.
But
But
it was just a
with
bit
the
of a
amount,
shocker to hear, I think.
but with the amount of games you got coming up, the amount of injuries that Arthur's had historically, I know they're all sort of, some of them are freak accidents and stuff like that, but you've got to have 2 quality goalkeepers. So
Yeah, absolutely. No.
so there's a mechanical, practical aspect to this, which is you've got 2 options, which is great, because if one is broken, then you've got the other option.
And let's be honest, we break keepers like I break knives
A
and
Kit
forks.
Kat.
A Kit Kat, exactly. And then obviously this surprise departure by Brooke Cairns with her social media. I mean, the women's side have gone deathly quiet over the summer. No
Worrying, isn't
signings,
it?
no
Worrying.
manager, nothing. There are rumours that there is a tour, but there's no confirmation yet exactly where it is. If you remember, the women only signed 12-month contracts last year, so officially, all of the Wrexham women are out of contract, unless they've signed them and we've not been told about it. So all of them could walk if they wanted to. This for me is a big worry. I'm sure Gemma behind the scenes is desperately trying to hold everything together, but without a manager to start with. Am I being overreactionary here, or are the alarm bells ringing?
I think it's a byproduct of the fact that 1-year contracts was always going to leave you vulnerable, and I do think that in terms of business management is probably not. You don't want to tie yourself into a commitment that you couldn't afford. Obviously there was probably ambition to get into Europe, or win the league and get to Europe, and then income streams are different. But the Wrexham aren't at that stage yet. They've got significant challenges from minimum two other clubs in the division. They've got to do better than that. Their recruitment last year, you said, was probably not as plentiful. There were some good choices, some really good additions, but there probably were more they would have benefited from more if we're going to keep up with any of the other clubs in the Mid Wales sort of in the Welsh League. So I think that the worry for me is, yes, there's a lot of players who could go, but I think you've got enough players there who play for the badge, who are local, they want to be part of it, but you can't afford to lose your strongest players. And if you've got Keynes, who I thought, genuinely came and brought
Yeah,
such an
absolutely.
additional, but if you're talking about, Iddenden going, or somebody like that, who after the season she's had, why wouldn't you want to poach her? It's
Absolutely. If
so
you're
I do.
TNS, you would be. If you're TNS, you'd be throwing the kitchen sink at her right now. I would absolutely be
Uh,
throwing the kitchen sink at her.
you're thinking from within the Welsh League. I'm thinking that she's idolised within Wrexham, or certainly has contributed to being some certainly a cult status in that sense. I would say that it would take something pretty special for her to go to another Welsh team. I wonder the fact that she's come from over the border, proven herself in this league, that it might be a shop window to getting back into, maybe not a Prem, but a top flight England team, because that's where there's better funding, the wages are going to be better, the level of competition, the chances to get into Europe, all of those things. The Welsh League, and I've been on this before, is so small. It's
Yeah.
so small
Yeah.
that the fact that only one team gets it, the incentive is really, really hard, sort of like demoralizing in that sense. And if Rob and Ryan want to invest money and get the club, the whole fairy tale thing about the men's team is that they were in a pyramid system which allowed all of that to happen. The women's game, they're already now at the top of this pyramid. It's just a really small pyramid. It's a really baby one, and it's got nowhere to go. You've got to,
No.
and so their
Well,
ambitions.
apart from down is all you can go.
Well,
That's the thing.
there is that.
Yeah.
If they don't, we're talking small. Okay, they are talking about expanding the leagues and stuff like that. But we're talking 8 teams or whatever. It's not much of a competition, and that's really going to be that's going to massively play into the fact that the Wrexham, with all its ambition and parity being conversation, they talk about making sure that the women's game is as important as the men's game. But if you haven't got a platform to showcase that then generates the income that the men are used to, the sponsors and all the TV streaming, all of that, there's just not the same access to the women's game, and that's not Wrexham's fault. Although I'm sure Adrian Gennaro League would have been absolutely licking their lips at the idea of Wrexham being taken over by some big money and investment, and sort of the cameras are now looking at the women's game in Wales, but they're only really looking at Wrexham during the documentary. There isn't really the attention. Yes, Scorio do the brilliant coverage they do, but it's one game a week.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, it's just not the platform that's going to get any kind of return, and it's capped, it's limited, and therefore the ambition that the club might have really is going to struggle in the Welsh system, because say they're in the top flight, there's nowhere else to go. They've got to beat the teams around them, but the attendance is not there, the income is not there, and if you're not able to entice the best players and keep them, which is where your question was leading to, is that if you can't keep your best players, then it just highlights the flaws that the league has, and that's the league you're in. You can't swap leagues. There's no, you can't get yourself. I don't think you can exile yourself and get into an English league. I think that's going.
No.
That's nowhere near it.
I mean, Jamie, this on the screen at the moment is Brooke Cairns' social media post. This is weird for me. She doesn't say where she's going. She doesn't, she's not indicated where she's going to. She just says my next step. How does this feel to you? Just for me, I don't know what it is. Just doesn't feel right. Whether she was loyal to Steve Dale and felt that Steve Dale, him going meant that she had to go, or whether there's, I don't know. Thoughts?
This specific story from this week, to me, is a piece in what is a bigger conversation piece about the women's setup, just generally. I mean, when you spoke before and you were saying about no manager, technically all the players are out of contract. This for me is a sort of a bit of a piece of the man. I don't want to be dramatic, but this feels to me like something that is very much in the dark, very much we don't know what's going on, and I maybe this all stems back to what we spoke about a million times in this podcast about the poor levels of communication. There is such a big spotlight on Wrexham now, and everything Wrexham does, that you have to keep the communication flowing, because otherwise it creates uncertainty, it creates rumours. I mean, this whole situation with the women's side of things is unbelievable. I mean, the fact that you said there's a tour planned. Well, how do how do you do that? Because you don't know who your manager's going to be, you don't know who your players are going to be. Dad said it spot on a minute ago. The last thing we need is to lose our best players. And Brooke Cairns was absolutely one of those best players, so that's worrying in itself. We've no idea what the situation is with these players. Obviously, we know that they're on semi-pro status, but what? How does that look from a living point of view? Earning a living's perspective. I don't know, because I don't know the financial situation of these guys, but I'm assuming the financial situation is that they offset what they earn from playing football against earning money in other careers. So that can't be a particularly secure way to live, and they're going to want that security. To me, it just feels like a bit of a shit show again. The thing with the Rock. It was documented in the documentary. Rob said they were trying to buy the Rock. There's been no mention of that. it
The
feels a
thing
bit
is,
of
the thing is, right? This all goes back to me, and I think there is something here that is root and branch of that's at the foot of the club itself. You know, the men had their awards at the racecourse in front of lots of people. The women were there on the day, but they took no part.
yeah. I don't know. Do, do you think? Do you think it feels a little bit?
It feels like the club are focusing on the men first, then the
Yes.
academy, and then
Do
the
you,
women. Whatever
okay.
can get whatever's left.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to
So
me.
that's exactly what I was going. You've just answered what I was going to ask, really, which is to me, and it's just my opinion. With the best of intention, when Rob and Ryan took over, and part of their whole thing was we want to have the best women's team in the world. It feels to me like at the moment, because there is so much else going on, and partly because of the reasons that we've talked about the Gennaro Adram being such a closed shop, it feels a little bit to me like it's been put on the back burner, um, in some ways, and maybe that is what is happening, but we don't know. Um, but you're right. It feels like it's been bumped down the priority list. That's for sure.
Is there any danger of Wrexham getting relegated?
There's it's possible. I don't think the danger. I don't think the risk is that high at this stage. I think there's still a quality side, assuming they keep all their other players. But that's. I think the quality is there. That they are top half, top five, top six should be okay. Of course, when you've got the split system and the plate and all of that, it does make it a lot harder. So I do think it's easier. But Jamie, you're absolutely spot on in whether it's men and academy and then women. It's if you look at where the income comes from, though, where the focus is and everything like that. You your club shop has had more attention than your women's team. Um,
Yeah.
but
Agreed.
why? Because that's where you get your money from. The men's team is
Have we seen any women's players wearing the new shirt?
no, but not every club will do it
They
that
play
way.
him and hang on, they play him a new shirt.
No,
This
I
is
know,
their
but not.
shirt as well.
Yeah, but sometimes, I mean, okay, I have no idea. They may turn around and go, there may be a women's version, and that's yet to come. You'd normally say then, or watch this space. Here comes the women's version. So the fact they haven't said that, it's probably not happening. Not every club does use both the men and the women, but the more savvy ones are. So you're absolutely spot on. There's a missed trick
I don't
there for
care about
sure.
what other clubs do, Daz. It's what's right. Okay, if we're going to
Um,
put the equal amount of attention to the men's and the women's side, therefore, then they should be both part of whatever marketing campaign that you have. It should be
yeah,
addressed to both the men's and the women's, and that for me is very noticeable. Yes, you've got the legends. That's fine because it's
yeah.
traditional, and there's a look back towards that, and I get that. And
I
obviously,
think
there
that's
are
I think that's where they
a
went with it, though. I think they went with that. You're absolutely spot on. They went with the history and the legacy, and that legacy doesn't exist with the women's game in the same way. So they couldn't draw on that history. But why there wasn't a further announcement to go with it, saying and watch this space where we're going to be showing the women's kit, or But I do think that the ceiling of what the women's game can achieve has meant that proportionately the time and investment is proportional then to what they're prepared to put in is depend on what they think they can get out of it. Whereas say the academy will feed into the into the first team, because even if you don't recruit great strong players, you're going to be sending them on, and that's going to be part of your income stream. Your club, your gate receipts is part of your income stream. The shop is good. Nobody's making money out of the women's game at the moment. There's when you've only got 600 people turning up to watch the game on a weekly basis. I mean, Wrexham is above average, so that that they're doing their bit for the league, and this is you've got to credit them in many ways. They are, I'm not saying trailblazers, but they are definitely at the forefront. It's just that the whole system in Wales is
It's
flawed.
it's it's a horrible way to look at it, but you're talking there about from a business perspective and where the income's coming from. But do you know what? In the cold light of day as well, the product itself is only capable of, you know what kind of return are you going to get on your investment if I'm going to use proper bullshit business speak? Because what I will say is, from watching some of these Euros games, I don't watch a lot of WSL, but watching some of these games, I said to my missus when we were watching the France game last night, this is no criticism to any of the Wrexham women's team or any of the other women's teams in the Genera Adran, but the gulfing difference between what we see at that level and what we see in the Adran Prem every week is night and day.
Yeah,
I understand, and I understand that you put in the business case, right? But the Wrexham Community Trust is not a business. They spend huge amounts of money doing outreach, community stuff to other countries, developing, club, whatever. There's no money in that. And yet there seems to be a lot more push on the community side right now because the women are virtually invisible. Invisible.
Well, yeah, I agree.
Well, I was going to say also, when people saying that the women's game, has been elevated by the Lionesses winning, and then a lot of people watched, from 4 years ago, the interest in women's game has gone up because, the awareness was there, and the WSL have benefited from that. Our team at the moment, how many of them play in the Prem? Well, none. They are all playing in the WSL. So
Absolutely.
if you're going to be generating some ambition and to be a footballer in Wales, you look at Jess, okay, overseas maybe. So there's a couple of them overseas, but Sophie Ingle, Chelsea, Kerry Holland, Liverpool. The aspiration is they're going to want to go and play in the WSL. It's not helping our league. So whatever this ambition is, okay, now if we can get numbers of girls playing at young ages because they watch the Wales play in this tournament, and the grassroots start to increase, then they start feeding into the clubs locally. That's Pontypridd, that's Barry, that's Aberystwyth. Then there could be some legacy from that, but most of those good players will probably go to WSL. They're not going to stay in the Welsh Prem because.
But this isn't about Wrexham trying to fix the league. Okay, because the league needs to fix itself. That's the job of the FAW and sponsorship partners. I'm just talking about Wrexham, the club. Okay, for me, they don't seem to be putting enough focus on the women's side, whether it be resources, whether it be marketing, whatever it is. They are absolutely at the very, very back of the queue. And this is not going to help because then the public perception is the women's team don't matter.
I agree. I agree 100% with you, but I think unfortunately it does come back full circle to what we've said. Some of these things we've talked about recently about the whole season ticket debacle and all these little things here and there that just seem to be like really focusing on like money. We spoke about it before we came on tonight. They've done these Australia tour games. You can do iFollow for £10 a game, little things like that. And I get being in the championships is expensive. I get the building a new cop's expensive, building a training. I get all these things are expensive. But this is where and why, in my honest opinion, obviously I'm only not basing this on anything other than just putting two and two together. But this is why I honestly think when they've sat there and they've sort of said, look, what are our priorities at the minute? What you're saying about the women being at the back of the queue, I think is probably a purposeful decision, because I think they've looked at it and gone, well, we can't put 2 million quid into to buy in the Rock and to give in X contracts and We need that money to put it somewhere that we're going to see. I'm sorry to say it, but we're going to see a better return on the investment. They're not going to see a huge return on the investment. And I'm not saying that's right. I see the look on your face. It's not right at all. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Sorry.
The kit thing, I agree with you 100%. Daz is right. They've gone down the retro classic homage to that time when that original kit was out. But I agree with you 100%. The pictures we saw of Elliot Lee stood in the stands where there was the picture looking down, there's no reason why that couldn't have been Elliot Lee and Lily Jones stood next to him. I agree with you 100%. But without any proper concrete wording from the club, we can only base this on what we see. And at the moment, what we're seeing is that what you just said is spot on. It feels like, it looks like that the women's side of things has just been put to the back of the queue because
we don't have an into the club. We can only go by perception. Okay, that's why they have a marketing department. That's why they have a communications director. Okay, we know what the problems are with the both of them. Sometimes they hit some absolute bullseyes and they're brilliant, but there are little bits, like you said, where they just miss out. We can only make an opinion based on that. And the opinion that I have is that the women are absolutely last, and I just think it's wrong. It's just wrong, and I understand there's a commercial aspect, but no, what's the thing this week? Is it Aston Villa have sold their women's club back to themselves? Because
Yeah,
to try and basically get through PSR.
yeah. There's a few. There's a
what kind
few.
of a message is that giving out? Oh well, it's just a commodity that can be bought and sold.
Yeah, there's a couple of prem clubs that have done that. It's some loophole for financial fair play or something that they can basically sell the women's division to a holding company that basically is them behind the scenes. It's all a nonsense, but yeah.
So Cymru Women have got their last game on Sunday the 13th of July, kick-off at 8 p.m. BST, also in St Gallen, where they played France. And to finish off, of course, would be our noisy neighbours England from across the border, ranked 5th in the world, the current holders of the European Championships. Last game versus England was a World Cup qualifier in Newport, where we won. We lost 3-0. The game before that, when we actually played away, was in Southampton. I went to that one, and it was a 0-0 draw, which is excellent. In fact, we had a ball cleared off the line, which should have been a goal. When you look at it, it's another one of those Italy jobs, as in the ball looks like it's over the line, but the ref didn't give it. I will be on a live watch along with Matt from Racecourse Ramble on Sunday, so if you want to join us, please feel free. I will obviously be waving the Dreigoch, whereas he will be waving, I don't know, something imperialist, I'm sure, because that's what I would think so from that point of view. Gentlemen, the old enemy, as we have said many times, whenever any of the Welsh groups come across the English, there's an extra level of something for these games. I mean, for our part, we're not mathematically out of it to get it qualified, but we have to win by 5 clear goals and hope that France beat the Netherlands to get second place, where we would probably end up playing Germany in the quarterfinals.
Yeah. I mean, one of those two outcomes is very likely. We just have to rely on France winning. That's all.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's
Seeing as England beat the Netherlands 4-0, that would be pretty impressive. I mean, thoughts? I mean, the Lionesses, as we said, they have pretty much single-handedly lifted the women's game in the United Kingdom by winning the Euros 4 years ago. The growth in the WSL is primarily down to the success that they have. If you can see it, you can be it, kind of thing.
You've got to be you've got to be realistic, haven't you? Like we spoke about before with the France and the Holland games, we knew coming into this group that all 3 games were going to be difficult. This is no different. Unfortunately, it means that, unfortunately with this one, it is against the noisy neighbours. But if you put that to one side for a minute, they are like France, like Holland, they are a quality side, full of quality players, and you can't get around that. I think all I am hoping for from it is that Wales can do themselves proud. I'm not expecting a win. I'm not expecting a draw. On paper, and with everything as it should be, England should beat Wales. They should, and I just hope that Wales, put on a good enough show to do themselves proud. That's all I'm hoping for from the game.
I mean, Daz, these Cymru players will know the English players, won't they? This is the thing. They, as you just said, Cymru players play primarily in the WSL. Yes, there are some players who play abroad, but primarily they play in WSL. So some of these Cymru players, the England players, will be their teammates. Does that, and then the added spice. I mean, Jess Fishlock, she is as Welsh as they come. She must be absolutely scratching at the door, kind of going, "Let me at them. I want them right there. I want them." It's that element. Is the unpredictability element. Yes, as Jamie said, on paper, every day of the week, if you played England 100 times, because of the amount of resources they have available, they will beat us 100 times out of 100. But there's that.
I think you're right. I think they're notoriously slow starters in tournaments, and so their first defeat of the tournament was classic England, and therefore,
Mm.
we shouldn't have read. A lot of people going, "Oh, maybe, no, maybe." They just weren't ready. They hadn't prepared
Nope.
properly. They played Jamaica, who, no disrespect to Jamaica, but not in the
No.
same league as
Absolutely
the
not.
teams
No,
that they were
close.
playing, including Wales.
Nope.
So
Oh, don't be upsetting the Jamaicans now as well.
no, but I think if you're looking at rankings and everything like that, other teams were
Yeah.
putting teams in front. They were going head to head in their warm ups against teams that were preparing them. So I think for some reason England have made some very bizarre choices in their prep. Didn't turn up against France. France also played very well. They then did turn up against Netherlands, and we know that Netherlands turned up against us, and
Mm-hmm.
we got a drub in, and then England did that in return to them. So you can see the gulf is 6 goals, isn't it? It's 5 or 6 goals plus. So it is asking a lot. But I do think, and we've always said this at the beginning, I think on any given day we can be hard to beat.
Mm-hmm.
If we've got 100 minutes of discipline, we can hold them in the way that we held Netherlands for the first half of the game, a good half-hour chunk of the France game. There's moments now. Whether or not we talked about this last week or the week before, whatever. It was like, do we want to go and just hold on? Probably not. But we know that if we open up too much, they are going to beat us. But they are a quality side. Let's not forget.
Mm. Yeah.
England are the reigning champions, and they have not really lost too many of their quality players. They've improved. They've had some come back from injury. Um, so they can afford to have players have an off day and they'll be okay. We have one player who has an off day and will get punished. And it's just as simple as that. We have no strength and depth in that. And we can't rely on an aging Fishlock to be able to pull us through kicking and
I
screaming.
mean, she's played virtually two full 90 minutes. I mean, apart from being subbed off towards the end of both games.
Yeah.
She's 38. She hasn't had
Yeah.
a lot of game time before coming into this. The fact that
Yeah.
she's managed to play as much as she has at 38 and
Oh, and
score a
she'll want to.
goal.
Oh, and she'll want to play against England.
Oh,
Of course.
guaranteed.
Can you imagine her? I can't see her being rested and then coming on as an
No,
impact
not
sub.
even close. No.
Um,
No, I mean, the thing I'm concerned about, and you said it in the Netherlands game, is the passion bit. It's that because there will be a fire in the belly for all these Welsh players because of the usual England-Wales thing
Yeah.
where the English are fairly arrogant and think, well, it's just Wales and we're going to beat them and it's not going to be a problem. They say they won't be. They say they're not arrogant in the press, but of course they are because we
Yeah.
are a much smaller nation and we are the neighbours and they play a lot of time with them in the WSL. Of course, there is that element. How much is that? Can that be a positive or a negative?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you can motivate yourself quite brilliantly off that kind of environment. I mean, you highlighted, said, I went to see the game against England the last time when they lost 3-0. They conceded a goal and their heads went straight away.
Mm-hmm.
It was a quite an uncomfortable watch after that. They were in it, and then as soon as they lost, now we've already said this is a different Wales team now. There's a different mentality, whether it's Rhian Wilkinson, whether it's the players that are in the squad, whatever it is, they are not prepared to concede that just because they lost a goal, they're not in it. They did it against Sweden twice. They've done it against uh, not Ukraine, Slovak, in the qualifiers, whatever, the semi-final. There there was we lost a game and then returned the leg, managed to sort of turn it around.
Republic of Ireland? You mean you're talking about the one?
No,
What
no,
was
no,
it?
the semi,
The
the
one
semi,
before that, Slovakia.
yes,
The one.
Slovakia. I can't remember if it was
Slovakia, I think it
Slovakia,
was,
Slovenia, or Serbia,
I
but
think one of those. Yeah, I think.
red, white, and blue stripes. Um,
Mm.
and I know it's one of those things where they've shown the resilience that perhaps they didn't have in the past. That said, I still don't know if that's going to be enough to get them through this ultimate test because this group is wide open in the sense that every one of the teams can technically make it through. France are obviously favourites with
Mm-hmm.
2 wins, but to have got 2 wins and still not made it through, it just shows you how bizarre the maths is in there. We can still make it through, which is
Well,
bizarre.
we draw with England, and Netherlands beat France. Netherlands, France go through, and England come home with us.
Yeah,
That for me would be great.
that's the conversation we had in our house. I think you pointed it out, but it's the most realistic. even
Yeah.
if we beat England, we're looking at such a ridiculous result in terms of, well, we'd have to beat them, say 5-0, and France do their thing. Then it's just an unsurmountable bit.
Yeah,
There's no point thinking it, but we could hold them to a draw.
yeah.
Genuinely.
Then, right for two staunch Welsh fans as you two are. If I offered you now the chance of either beating England or just doing enough to draw with them so that they came home with us, which would you take?
Well, if you beat them, they come on with us anyway.
Uh, Regardless of the other result.
Yeah, well, yeah, because they'd be on 3 points, we'd be on 3 points. Netherlands, as long as Netherlands beat France, they'd be on 6 apiece. So those two would go through.
Yeah, but
Mm.
if Netherlands draw, they would also go
Yeah,
through
they would have
ahead of England. Right?
four
But
and
if but
7. Yeah,
if but if France win again, they go through as outright winners. And
yeah,
if
because
we
on
beat
goal
an
difference,
England,
isn't it?
there would be a three-way tie. We would be equal second on points, which is bizarre, and it would be then go down to goal difference. And unfortunately, our goal difference is not good.
No.
So
And
it's not good.
England's is better than the Netherlands because they beat the
Yeah.
Netherlands 4-0. So unfortunately, a draw is what we want. A draw and then Netherlands to win. Because a draw and Netherlands to win means France and Netherlands go through, and England can't get that second place.
Well, yeah, or no, if we won, no, but if we won,
But if we won, yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it makes it.
yeah,
Again,
yeah.
it's Netherlands. It's Netherlands beating France is what we need. I don't think that's going to
Yes,
happen. I think France will beat the Netherlands because I think you're right. I
yeah.
think they're absolutely too
So
good.
England's chances,
Netherlands will be hurting because of the beating by England. But
yeah.
yeah,
So it's on Netherlands to go through and take England's place.
yeah,
That's what it is at the
absolutely.
moment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But if we can, if England win, then it pretty much guarantees them.
Well,
So if we could
I
at least be the one team to have beaten them and stopped them, and or at least
so
drawn against
you were
them.
saying about that game. It's 2018, Daz, the Newport game. That was
Yeah,
2018. That's the last time we played them. I went to the away game at Southampton, where it was 0-0. And Jane Ludlow at that point said that is the best Cymru women's performance there's ever been. And that was a 0-0 draw.
yeah.
So if we win, I think something might explode.
Well, but that was also about the performance. They absolutely played their socks off to contain the much stronger England side, and
Yeah,
that's
Ellen White
what
was lethal on that night. It was an
and
incredible
that's what we're
score.
looking for this time is containing an underachieving England side, but they have shown the promise and the fact that James scored twice. The players who have been injured have coming through. It's just a frightening state of affairs that they have just got so much. There's like I say, we're not going to win 5-0. We're hardly going to, the chances of us winning. But if we can just be stubborn and awkward and be hard to beat, then it at least would give us some sort of bragging rights and some sense of achievement and a real platform of achievement to go through to another qualifier and another tournament in the future. It's just that if everyone keeps going on about the fact, plucky Cymru, they went off to their first tournament, and yes, they've lost all 3 games, and that's what they were expected to do. That's okay. That's what we're expected to do. But wouldn't it be great to just have a little bit of a story
There haven't really been any big upsets in this Euros so far. The teams that you've expected to win have pretty much won.
Yeah, Iceland taking an early lead and conceding those 2 goals by Norway was probably the closest it's been, really.
Yes. So maybe we're due an upset. Who knows? But it would be perfect. Moving to the men, obviously, as we said, Wrexham men are now on their Down Under tour. They play, as we're recording this, tomorrow morning, our time, 9:30, which is Friday, the 11th, at the Marvel Stadium against Melbourne Victory. Melbourne Victory were 5th last season in the regular season in the A-League. They then made it to the grand final and were runners-up, and they were beaten by the other Melbourne side at that point. They last won the championship in 2018. And then on Tuesday, Wrexham then moved to Sydney where they play on the 15th of July, kick off again 9:30 a.m. BST at the Allianz Stadium against Sydney FC. Sydney FC last season was 7th in the regular season. The last time they won the championship was 2020. 30-man squad, no Luke Bolton. Luke Bolton has not travelled with the squad as he's just had a birth of a child, so he stayed behind with his wife and his new Barbie. Only new players, obviously, that we're going to see Ryan Hardy and Danny Ward, as we've signed nobody else. So it will have a very, very familiar look to it. If you do want to watch it in the UK, as Jamie said, you could pay £10 to the club and look it on the website, or you could go on S4C, Scorio, on S4C Click, or YouTube in English and Gymraeg, and watch it on the full highlight, and then on the live on YouTube there, and then full highlights on S4C in the evening at about 10:30 for each of the 3 games. Well,
Are
Jamie,
you sure? Are you sure on the kickoff times? Just to correct you, you said 9:30. I thought it was 10 a.m. Your British summer time.
I think maybe the program starts at 9:30 and they're going to do a bit of
that's
chatty
yeah.
chat. I don't know, but yes, I mean, if you go 9:30, you'll be safe. You can make yourself a bacon sandwich, a cup of tea, ready for breakfast. Or if you're American, get up at crap o'clock because that's ridiculously early for you. Gentlemen, the interview that obviously we've put out with Rousey has basically said that A-League teams are. He compared them to National League South and North. I think that's probably a little bit severe. I know, but he's predicting 5-0, 6-0 wins. He said it's not really going to be a test for Wrexham.
Yeah,
we're obviously we're not going to see. We're going to see the squad that we saw last season. Apart from Ryan Hardy, the only one really I'm interested in watching. We're going to see. I mean, maybe Parky will tinker with some formations. I would doubt it because he doesn't do that. He'll probably put Danny Ward in between the posts for half a game because he'll need to give him some warm up. Ryan Hardy will be in there. I mean, what are we expecting from this tour? Either of you?
There's a part of me, and maybe this will come back and bite me in the balls, but there's a part of me that I'm a little bit worried about this tour. This has got the feels to me of the first American tour we did, and having the same impact on the start of our season. Because I think, from what you just said there about the quality opposition, I didn't realise that they were quite at that level, but I knew that they were. The A-League is not a fantastic level. Like you just said, the fact that we are fundamentally going over there pretty much with the same squad as we finished last season. Yes, you've got Ryan Hardy now and Danny Ward added to it, but it's fundamentally the same squad as finished the season last year. I would be quite surprised if Parky wasn't hoping or expecting to have a few more names through the door before going off on this tour. And what worries me about this is that I think the fundamental reason for this tour is commercial. I think that's the main reason for it is this commercial thing. Because from a footballing perspective, I don't see, other than fitness, being able to get fitness up, I don't see from a footballing perspective this is going to be hugely helpful in preparing us for the championship. And that worries me a little bit. And again, goes back to what we've talked about communication. As it stands at the minute, this is it for our pre-season. There's been no mention of any other pre-season games when we get back. I'd like to think there are going to be at least 1 or 2, but at the moment, there's nothing on the horizon. It doesn't feel like
you're going to run out of time, Jamie, because they've got their last match. Obviously, I think around about the 20th or the 19th. Yeah. Even if they fly back and then they've got to acclimatise back. You're talking about 22nd, 23rd by the time they're back in training. You can't rush them back into a game because that's the second weekend before the season starts. The first weekend, obviously, where League One, League Two start is that kind of 1st, 2nd of August. It's possible you might get one in there because they'll have been back for over a week by that point. You might get one in, I think, but
no, I agree, and I don't want to sound, negative and pessimistic or whatever, but it genuinely concerns me at the minute because I don't feel like what we're doing is particularly great preparation for going into a championship season. It does concern me a little bit. I think our squad is significantly undercooked for what we need going into the Championship, whatever those reasons are. Whether we haven't been able to get the players we want, whether whether they're proving harder to get.
I mean, it is quite marked, isn't it? That when you see a lot of the other teams in the Championship, there are a lot of signings.
Mate,
but I mean, Birmingham is hoovering them up like there's no tomorrow.
It is frightening. It is frightening. If you look at some of the other business that some of the other Championship clubs have done, even if you just look at the two teams that came up with us, both Charlton and Birmingham have made significant reinforcements. I mean, but without spoiler alert for when we do our league prediction, I actually think Birmingham are a real contender to be right up there for automatic promotion. I think. We know how good their squad was last season anyway, and they've added to that. What they've added to that is ridiculous. So, I'm trying to put a smiley face on it at the minute and think and still ride that crest of, you were in the Championship. But I tell you what, I'm nervous at the minute because I'm excited to see this game tomorrow. I'm excited to see the lads play again. I'll be fascinated to see that. I think. The two main things I'm interested to see is, one, will we see any variation on the formation?
No.
Because obviously, that's been something that's been levelled at Parky over the years about whether he has a ceiling in his tactical ability. Well, he's played the same system. I won't say he's played the same way because we have varied the way we've played in the leagues, but we've played the same system. So, it'll be interesting to see whether we see any variation. And I think the only other thing is to see where and how and with whom Ryan Hardy plays. But other than that, those two things, realistically, what else are we going to learn from these games? It's the same players.
Daz, what do you think? What's your overriding feeling about all this?
Well, the overseas friendlies have always been contentious in terms of it's a marketing deal. It's about satisfying the fan base. It doesn't matter which club you are, whether it's the Prems that go off and do these tournaments in Thailand, Hong Kong, America, Saudi, whatever it is. There's always your suspicion that the main reason for choosing these opponents is because it will generate that income. I don't underestimate game time per se, though. That doesn't matter what the tournament is, the opponent is. Any kind of game time is going to be valuable. I think good coaches will be able to spot some tells, some issues, some things to manage in individuals. So just seeing them on the pitch, just seeing them vocal, seeing them interact, seeing them tackling, scoring, whatever. I just think it's all very well doing a lot of coaching, but until you've got a game, it's that game speed mindset of what you need to do in the moment. And so they will take something from them, as much as it's not a real test because it's not an opponent you recognize or an opponent you would rate. But the core of it, the choice of it, is going to be about income stream. They will benefit from it, whether or not it's sufficient. It's like comparing the England versus playing against Jamaica. It's you've got to have meaningful opposition or recognize what that opposition is likely to be and adjusting the team so that so you've got a weaker team, so maybe you put a weaker team out and see how some of those fringe players are going to adapt, and you learn something new about the fringe players because the first starting 11 you already know because you've been playing them for most of the games last year. So there's so much you can take away from it, but the choice of why Australia rather than something else, probably the Moolah.
On the plus side, that Marvel Stadium, as a Marvel geek, looks amazing.
Yes, it does. The mural they put out today, which looks incredible. So,
the Welsh Fool mural.
Yeah,
that's maybe not the best.
No, not really. Sorry, Paul.
Come and see the Reds with me, and you will swear that you have seen a vision. We don't just know they feel when they beat me by the field. We're off to the second division.
So we wrap up a packed week with lots of info. Wrexham obviously down under, and obviously the Cymru women doing their thing over in Switzerland. Please let us know your thoughts on social media or on YouTube. We welcome your comments. Always very, very valuable. There have been some brilliant comments that have already come in. Had a great discussion online last week on the season ticket story that we ran. Thank you for your comments on that. Very, very useful to get your take on that. So please feel free to put your comments, whatever they may be. Thanks as always to the North Wales folk band The Harvesters for our 1978 Wrexham football song and our pod music. When I shuffle off this mortal coil, two people I will be passing my seat to are these two. So, thank you, Jamie.
You what? I'm sharing it.
Well, if I'm dead, you can have it.
I've
I see
already
you want
got
to share it with Daz.
No, I've already got a prosthetic mask of you, so I'm just going to pretend I am you. Got plenty of dairy milk in the fridge, and I got a
Yeah,
mask, so I look like you.
You'd have to put on a bit of mass, mate. You're not as chunky as I am. Thank you, Daz.
You're welcome. Although I was a bit worried about which seat I was getting. In which case, am I just getting the downstairs loo or something? But
you can have his podcast chair.
Yeah, it's got a nice bum crevice in it. It's perfect, so that's fine.
I look forward to it. Thank you very much.
I've been Welsh Techie. I'm off to buy a shirt 2 sizes too small for me, of course. So until next time, and particularly against Lloegr, come on, Cymru, just please come on, and come on the town.